Hello, I'm Christina Hammerberg, a member of the board here at Neskaya Movement Arts Center in Franconia, New Hampshire. I have been sacred circle dancing at Neskaya for several years now. I also lead belly dancing classes here.
Neskaya is a registered nonprofit, and since 1996, Neskaya has been hosting and promoting sacred circle dance gatherings and events in a beautiful and unique circular space that has been constructed according to the sacred geometry. Neskaya's mission is to offer a sacred space that promotes inner happiness, healthy social connections, and world peace through the practice of celebrating our differences. In April of 2020, we were planning to hold our second Sacred Circle Dance Conference featuring presenters from the UK, the US, and Canada speaking about the therapeutic, community building, and harmony promoting work that they do with Sacred Circle Dance. However, due to the global COVID-19 pandemic and quarantine, we were unable to hold the conference. Instead, we've invited our presenters to offer their presentations here on our YouTube channel.
So, on behalf of all of us here at Neskaya, we hope you enjoy them, and thank you for watching.
Our next presenter is Bobbi Bailin of Eastern Massachusetts. Bobbi is an international sacred circle dance teacher and choreographer. With her training in Alexander Body Awareness, Gurdjieff Sacred Dance, and energy healing, Bobbi has been exploring the transformational power of conscious movement for over 40 years. Bobbi approaches sacred circle dance as a natural and direct path to accessing the everyday sacredness of our humanity and as a means of experiencing personal and spiritual alignment. She continues to learn from many well-known teachers while creating unique approaches to the sacred in our circles.
Hi, my name is Bobbi Bailin, and I'm a sacred circle dance teacher and choreographer. I live on the east coast of Massachusetts in the United States. And I was scheduled to present a program at Neskaya's Joining Hands Conference this past April on wholeness through dance. And the area that I was going to focus on was the therapeutic and healing use of sacred circle dance. I received an invitation to teach sacred circle dance on the island of Jeju in South Korea. And what I want to present is a bit about my experience doing that. And just a few days before I was ready to leave, I received a request from somebody there if I would lead a memorial dance. And it was in commemoration of a political massacre that happened on the islands. And this was the 70th anniversary of that occurrence. And it was to take place in a peace park on the island of Jeju, where I would be teaching. And they sent me a few photos of the area where I would be teaching and asked if I'd be willing to do that. And of course I said yes. I am a first-generation American of parents both who escaped religious persecution, and I live in a country where we have tried to decimate our native population and are rejecting refugees and incarcerating people coming across the border. So I felt a deep resonance with the grief that they expressed to me. And I believe in the healing power of our dance. It unites us, it unites cultures, it helps us to seek honor and respect and reconciliation for all people. And so I created a few very simple dances for this occasion. My plan for the conference at Neskaya was to show you some photos and to present through dancing the program that we did so that people could experience somewhat what the event felt like. It would have been very hard to actually reproduce, but that was my intention. And of course now we can't even join hands, so what I'm going to do is show you some pictures of the place where we danced and of us dancing on a little bit of the island of Jeju. You'll see the Peace Park with these mounds in the background that are all black volcanic, and there are about 350 of them on the island. They're called Orem. And against that backdrop are these very stark buildings, and the Peace Park is very emotionally powerful just in its architecture. And we were to dance in a spiral building that was open air and built from the volcanic rock, so it was black rock that we would be passing through in the passage. And I'll show you pictures of that. And just take you through the landscape of what it was like as best they can. So the Korean dancers were very responsive, very eager to learn, and a real joy to be with. So we practiced the dances that I brought as part of the workshop that I was doing. I didn't realize, though, the power of grief and the how important this event was to the people. I just want to show you, there were books put out that described the whole history and talked about the Peace Park. They gave me this wonderful, big, beautiful map of the island, and the Peace Park is somewhere up here. And these pins, I don't know if you can see them. So because the massacre occurred on April 3rd, they refer to this as 4/3, much the way we refer to the September 11th attack as 9/11. And it was the day after my birthday. And so I was given this gift. These are two dolls that represent also the children that were in this massacre, these Korean children. And this pin here, actually the design itself, is a symbol of the 4/3 event. And when I arrived in Korea, the place was, it was spring, and there were these beautiful light pink cherry blossoms everywhere, lining the highways and covering the buildings, and it was really quite beautiful. And an interesting thing happened the morning that we were going to the Peace Park to dance. It turned winter. The place where we were going to dance, in this spiral that I said was black, in the center is a white patch that represents snow and a statue of a woman holding her baby. And she's down on the ground, and she was killed trying to escape the massacre. And she's another symbol of this time, somehow in synchronicity with what we were doing there, being there. It turned frigid and gray and dark, and it even started to snow a little bit. Somebody had gone home who lived nearby the workshop, and she brought all the winter clothes she possibly could bring, and we're all bundled up and dancing through this spiral, shivering, and our hands were cold and ears were cold. It was powerful. So we danced, we processed through the spiral and then around the statue and processed out. And then did two dances outside the little monument that were choreographed by two Koreans, a couple, Hugh and Sun. And then the onlookers and all of us just hugged and felt some relief. And the next day I had a gathering to share what our experiences were. And it was in Korean, and it seemed there was so much emotion being expressed that it was just too much for the translator. but I could feel it, and my first response was to pass around a box of tissues because we were all crying. It was very powerful, very, very touching. And while I was there dancing, I felt like I was growing tall and huge, like I was carrying grief of all people who have gone through so much suffering. So I will be showing you some pictures, and I'll talk a little bit more about what you're looking at, and I hope that it gives you some sense of the healing power of our dance. And hopefully someday we can join hands and dance these dances together.
The path to where we danced is quite pastoral. And you can see the building in the distance, which is an old temple. And we passed that on the way to the studio where we danced. And you can see the building. The right-hand side of the building is where the dancers stayed and ate. And to the left, the white part is where we danced. And close up, you can see it's circular with windows and good lighting. This is the entryway into the building. And here's our dance space. And this is the ceiling of the dance space. And here we are, filling the dance space and dancing. And in this second picture, I'd like to draw your attention to the two dancers directly across from you, the man in the white, and to his right is his wife with the long scarf. He's Hugh and she is Sun, and they are teachers from Seoul and choreographers of sacred circle dancing. And I'm mentioning them now because they have choreographed two of the dances that we did for the memorial event. And I'll show you a little bit of dancing so that you can see some of the dances that we did. We're practicing the processional, the dance called Healing Hearts.
위안받지 못한다 해도 당신은 그런 사람 그러나 살아야 할 시간 살아야 할 시간 안녕이라 말했다 해도 모든 걸
We're dancing the dance Jeju Beyond Sorrow. And you'll notice at the end of a phrase, we sometimes look up and we sometimes look down. We're exploring the difference between looking down in grief and looking up with hope. Since I do not have video clips of the other two dances, I made 2 short videos of myself dancing them alone so you could see what they were like. I'm going to take you for a little stroll through the Peace Park to show you the landscape and some of the amazing buildings there. You can see this long pathway lined with flags and plants and trees. And then from the inside of the Peace Park, this is the entry building with cherry blossoms all in bloom. Some of the buildings are very stark and modern, and this one's quite dramatic with an angled pathway leading up to this black building. There are some windows on the other side that you cannot see inside but reflect the sky. And this pathway leads up to a dome where there were rituals and drumming, and in the foreground you see the setting for a play. One of the dancers has a dance troupe, and they put on a really amazing dance performance about the 4/3 massacre. And here you can see the masks that are sitting on the stones and the camellia flower. On another part of the park, you can see In the very, very far left, a green building, that is the art museum. And more in the foreground is a curved black monument, which is actually the spiral walk that we're going to do the event for the memorial. So approaching it now from a pathway in the distance, you can see how it's nestled into the lawn. And closer up, you can see on the left the entryway into the spiral walkway. And here's a close-up of that. And as you walk through the pathways, you can see on the right the stones are lined with some plaques with Korean writing, and that is the wording of the lullaby that's written all along the path. And when you come to the end of the pathway, which is probably about 1.5 turns, you start to see that you're entering the center, and it's a stark change from being inside the dark walkway to this open space with the white marble and the statue. In the distance, you can see the art museum. When we're approaching more closely to the statue, and here's a front view, and here's a close-up, and somebody had dropped a camellia flower in it. And outside is a plaque talking about this, and you can see she's a very important symbol of this tragedy. The day of the event came, and we all experienced the shock of the weather suddenly turning very cold like winter. So we bundled up and went over to the Peace Park and gathered at the Black Spiral Monument, where we were met by some non-dancers, and they bundled us up even more against the cold. Then we lined up at the entrance to the spiral and danced through the entrance, along the dark walls, the dance called Healing Hearts. Our right hand is on our heart, and our left hand is on the back of the person in front of us, on the back of their heart chakra area. And that is how we were connected, walking slowly into the monument. My left hand was free, so it was open in front of me, leading the way. By the time I was halfway through the spiral, my hand was absolutely frozen. It was that cold. We moved slowly, one at a time, each of us arriving at the end of the spiral, at the center, to suddenly witness this round white marble that represented snow and the statue of the fallen woman holding her baby. Once we were all there, we joined hands in the circle and danced the next dance, which was Lavava. And Lavava moves to the left. And very gently and consciously we brush the earth with our foot. We go up and down on our toes and heels and very consciously experience connection with the earth in various ways. And this strong drumbeat is a pulse that moves in our body. And then we danced Jeju Beyond Sorrow. This is a very soothing piece of music. And there are moments in the dance when you can reflect and feel both sadness and hope at the same time. You can see how dark and gray it was. The wind brought in bitter cold and snowflakes, and this sudden darkness and cold and snow falling and wind. It was as if nature was in sync with what we were doing. There, dancing around this statue of a woman frozen in the snow, who represents the tragedy of war. And from this dance, we moved on to the prayer for peace. And this dance has a very strong drum beat that is like the heartbeat of Mother Earth. And with our hands, we connect with the energy of the earth, the energy of the sky. We bring that into ourselves, to our heart, to our body. And then with our hands, we kind of fold it away to letting it go. Dancing this way for this important commemoration and in this environment was just incredibly powerful. And as we danced and the snow began to fall, it was as if my tears were turning into snowflakes. I felt myself holding so much grief, not just for Jeju's tragedy, but for all people who have experienced the ravages of war. And as I felt this, I began to grow tall. And still holding hands, we walked out of the spiral onto the grass outside. There we joined again in a circle, and we danced the two dances that were choreographed by the Korean teachers, Hugh and Sun. First we danced Lifetime, a dance Hugh choreographed in honor of his mother after her death. And then we danced Although You Said Goodbye. We were joined by some of those who were there witnessing our event. And at the end, we were tearful. Many of us hugged and then silently went our way, holding in us the healing power of the dance. The next day, it was spring again.